Welcome to another Zoom meeting. I'm Jim Munchbach, your host, your professor of personal finance at the Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. This is our final class, our final lecture. We're going to put it all together today. So welcome aboard, and feel free to click the little like button and subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you'd like to be notified when we post new content, and we will be posting lots of new content as the fall session of Money Study Group is coming soon. So check it out at moneystudygroup.com. And again, feel free to like, subscribe, and click on the notification if you want to be reminded when we post new content. So here we go. It'll be a long video. So again, you may want to hit the fast forward, and you can listen a lot faster than I can talk. So thanks for participating this semester. I hope to see you next semester, and leave a comment. Tell me what you're looking for, what you need, how I can help, and I'll be happy to do an additional tutorial video. If you're a student in my course, get that posted as soon as possible, because I am going on vacation in a couple of days. So talk to you soon. Thanks for everything. This has been a great semester, and I'll look forward to staying connected online and on LinkedIn. Okay, here we go. We're recording our final Zoom meeting for Summer School 2020 for the Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. I'm Jim Munchbach, and I'm your humble and very thankful facilitator, instructor, professor, coach, professor of personal finance, I guess. But this has been a great semester for me. First time I've done summer school. First time I've done an online course, and I could not have done it without you guys, without your help. So thank you. We're recording this meeting, the final Zoom meeting for this semester, where we're going to put it all together. But I wanted to encourage you, for those of you who are either here now, and it looks like we only have 26 students who are here with us, which is no problem. Many students watch this recording after the fact, which is totally cool. It's a new way of teaching, but it is an important part of our course. And in this next couple of minutes, I'm going to encourage you to do something for yourself and for me that hopefully can help make things smooth as we wrap up this semester. And here's what I'm going to recommend. Your capstone assignment is due this Friday. I believe it's end of day as usual. And so you have all week to get it done. However, and this is an important however, so pay attention. However, today's Tuesday, tomorrow's Wednesday. Important days for you, because I'm hoping you will take time to jump in and get started on your capstone assignment. And if you have any questions, if you get stuck, if you need some tutorial assistance, I'm available today and tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow I have appointments tomorrow afternoon, but I will do my best to try to, get you an answer, give you some direction. However, come Thursday morning, my wife's birthday, August 6th, we're going to be leaving town to go to Kentucky on a family reunion. We'll be gone for a week. So that doesn't mean I won't be able to interact, in group meet or whatever, but it does mean that it will be a limited kind of interaction. And so I won't be available to give you much help after Wednesday. So for those of you who are trying to make sure you get that final A or A in the course, and you need the points in your capstone, 200 points, especially for those of you who are going to be asking me for help because you need the points to get your A, I would encourage you to jump in and get started on that assignment as soon as possible, like right now, so that, it's not a difficult assignment. It shouldn't even take you very long if you followed the trajectory of our course and you've continued to build your financial plan. The capstone assignment really is where you just put it all together. And so it shouldn't take a lot of time for you to do, but if you're behind, if you're not following where we've gone this semester in terms of building your financial plan, then you're probably going to get stuck and you're going to need some direction. And I'm happy to help, but I'm only going to be available today and tomorrow. After that, it's pretty much finito. I'm going to be looking for the final assignment being posted. You'll post those to Blackboard. I'll grade them. I'll give you whatever points you earn, and then that will prompt me to finish out posting your class participation points. I know I owe a couple of you some points, and you'll get those points, but I'm not giving them to you until you finish the capstone. The capstone is required, and some of you are way ahead of the game, which is totally cool. Get your capstone done. I'll post that. You'll have your points. You need 950 points, so please. I'm speaking to everyone, but there's one student in particular who I appreciate your tenacity. But look, 950 points gets you an A, so don't give me grief about giving you extra points for some assignment that you did that you're still waiting for points on. If you've already got 950 points, then let's move on. Thank you. Okay, so that's that. So I don't see any questions, so I'm just going to jump right in, and I'm going to get started. So let's start by just a review of the course. I want to review where we've been, what we've covered, and where we're going to end it for now. And so we started off with the big idea how to become a millionaire by age 50. And I introduced you to the 3 laws of personal finance: the law of spending and saving. The law goes like this: spend less than you earn so that you can save more for what matters most. It's the most important law of personal finance, but it's also the most disregarded law of personal finance. So we focused a lot in the first few weeks on the law of spending and saving. The second law of personal finance, which we're going to really work on today and put it all together, is the law of tax advantaged investing. So the IRS makes the law. Your job is to take advantage of it. And that's what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to really try to teach you today how to do that. The third law of personal finance is the law of purpose and commitment. And as I've been trying to encourage you over the course of this semester, is once your purpose is clear, when you really know what it is you want to achieve in your life, and you commit to that, the path forward becomes much more clear and much easier for you to accomplish. So I would encourage you to always go back to what is your purpose, what are your goals? And then I asked you at the beginning of the course, what are your goals? What are your goals for this course? What are your goals in the next 5 years, the next 25 years? So every semester, that's where we start, is what are your goals? And then we began to build a financial plan. So you logged in, you registered, you did some homework, you did a quick little budget. You did some work with Dave Ramsey. He taught you about the 7 baby steps, which, by the way, those 7 baby steps, we didn't spend a lot of time on them, but they're, for many, many people, those 7 baby steps are a financial plan, and they're very helpful. So I would encourage you to continue to go back to those lessons when you need a refresher. You did some great work, by the way, in your video assignments and your articles. Week number 2, we got into budgets, spent some time with Charles Schwab in that playlist, and you actually created a simple budget and told me what you learned. At the same time, you logged in, signed up for your online planning portal, and you got to work on your financial plan. Then you remember the Credit Crush assignment where you went out, you bought your dream house? You bought your car and a toy, and then you went in and you plugged that into your plan. And then I think that same week you did your credit report. You got your free credit report, and you listed your creditors. So that was an important part of the semester. We did that. I think it was week 3. It should have been week 3. Week 4, you basically built your first financial plan using the online portal that we set up through Bayrock. So you started then to build your financial plan. And this is, I think if anyone who's listening right now actually failed the course and has to take it again, or if you're a student who is thinking about taking this course, this video, this Zoom meeting probably is a good place to start, because this is what we've done over the semester, and this is kind of the wrap-up show. So anyway, you got set up. You shared your first memories of money. You did a parental interview, and that was one of my favorite lessons, one of my favorite assignments. And then I told you the story about Billy and Sally, and I call the title of that lesson Consumer Beware. And I tell you the story about Billy and Sally, and then we start working on the Credit Crush assignment. The next week, you basically have to figure out some debt payment strategies using your financial planning portal. That was your homework, Credit Crush assignment. I thought that was kind of fun, kind of cool. And then we got into bargaining and negotiating. And you spent some time with my friend Ramit Sethi. Ramit. And he helped you understand how you can use certain negotiation skills as you negotiate and bargain for your salary, your career promotion. So I thought that was a great, helpful lesson. And then we got into insurance. I told you some stories about car insurance and home insurance, and we didn't get to cover near as much as I would like to. Insurance could be its own course. But in that week, your homework assignment was to go out and add homeowners insurance and auto insurance to your plan, and most of you just knocked that out of the ballpark. And then you had to go and get a car insurance quote. So that was a helpful, usually a very good assignment to learn a lot about insurance. So that was week number 8. Let's see. And then we got into investing. And I told you about the perfect investment, which I'm going to review today. And I posted some additional lessons on insurance in your online class. But we covered the 4 investment strategies. I introduced those 4 investment strategies that are designed to maximize return and minimize risk. And those 4 investment strategies are, I'm wondering if anybody's going to post them in the chat box. The 4 investment strategies are, number 1, I'm looking, no one's posting it. I know you guys are actually watching Netflix, right? Nobody? Oh, diversification. Yes, Yolani, that's number 1. For my cash flow. Okay, so Randy, I'll get to that. I see that question. I'll come back to that. So yes, diversification, asset allocation, dollar cost averaging, and there's one more after portfolio rebalancing. No Netflix. Awesome. Great. Thanks. So yeah, that's it. So we had diversification. I told you this story about Enron. I introduced you to the Enron investors. And Bill, the guy that put all of his money in Enron stock, and he lost all of it. Diversification, a very important strategy to maximize returns and minimize risk. And then we talked about asset allocation, which is the most important determinant of your portfolio's returns, asset allocation. And then I told you this story about Farmer Joe and dollar cost averaging. And I hope you watched that final video where I put some cows in the B-roll. You know, you're hearing me talk and you're seeing cows. That was pretty cool, huh? Dollar cost averaging with Farmer Joe. Very helpful. I believe dollar cost averaging is the most powerful investment strategy that can help you, especially if you have a long career of investing in front of you. And if you're young, you do. Dollar cost averaging is the most powerful strategy to help you maximize returns and minimize risk. Over time, it's a systematic approach and it works really well. And then finally, portfolio rebalancing is just basically from time to time, you put your portfolio back in to balance the way that you allocated your assets originally. with a thoughtful approach to making sure you select different asset classes. We spent a good deal of time talking about asset classes, and I want to encourage you as you continue moving forward and learning about personal finance and investing in particular, just don't be afraid of understanding asset classes, because that's really the building block of asset allocation is asset classes. So make sure you pay attention to those. Netflix is not an asset class, but it is in an asset class, which I would say is technology. Anyway, that's kind of, so there we had investing lessons. And then what did we do next? Your homework assignment. So your homework assignment got interesting last week, the week before, and that's where you basically became 58 years old. I asked you to take my birthday, 4/15/62, which made you 58 years old. Deandra, I thought you were already with us. I see you're back. Did you need to log in with a different device? Anyway, welcome. Yeah, you were with us. Now you're back again. So I hope your technical difficulties are getting worked out. So that assignment, the investment one assignment, you inherited $1 million and you became 58 years old. So that was part one. Part two is to just go back and change your asset allocation so that you get to see how that moves the needle on your retirement plan in terms of probability of success. Makes a huge difference. Again, asset allocation is the number one determinant of your portfolio's returns. So first you inherited $1 million and I said you can put it anywhere you want. Just put it in the checking account. That's great. Change your birthday, look at your plan, get familiar with it. But then the next week I asked you to do some changes so that you could see how it moved the needle. And this week in the capstone, I'm saying, okay, now I want you to not just allocate your assets in terms of investment asset classes, but in this lesson today, as we put it all together, and in your capstone assignment, as you put it all together, I'm going to ask you to allocate or reallocate that $1 million into different tax allocations, or what I call buckets. So that brings us to today's lesson, where we're going to put it all together and talk about the final step of your capstone assignment, which is the allocating of that $1 million that you inherited, or it wasn't supposed to be an inheritance. It was supposed to be, here's the things that you did when you were young, and we're pretending now that you're old, like me, and here's what it looks like. So I just want you to have opportunities to play with those different choices that you can make over your investing career and see them in real time as you tweak those in your financial plan. That's the whole point of the capstone assignment. That's the whole point of kind of the building of your financial plan throughout the semester in this course. So hopefully that's made sense to you. And at this point, if it doesn't make sense, then I'm sorry. You may want to come back and, go through the lessons again. You'll have access to them for a while. So I'm going to take a drink of water. I'm going to start into today's lesson. So recall the perfect investment. I try to tell this story multiple times throughout the semester, but the numbers I always try to use are very simple. Let's pretend that you have your dream job, and let's pretend that that job is paying you $100,000 a year. So the perfect investment is set up like this. Let's say that you work for a great company. Oh, let's just say Shell Oil. Shell's a good company. I have friends that work at Shell, clients. And so let's say that Shell pays an 8%. Okay, that's pretty high. Let's say a 7% match. A 7% match. So do the math in your head real quick. By now, you should really be able to nail this. So you make $100,000. The perfect investment says that you're going to take advantage of that company match of 7%. So what does that look like? Here's what it looks like. Starting out, when you sign up in Human Resources, they ask you, do you want to participate in the 401k plan? And you say, yes. And then the next question is, okay, how much do you want to contribute? And that's when you have to pull out your mental calculator and say, okay, if I'm making $100,000 a year, and if the company match is 7%, how much do I need to make sure that I contribute to my 401k in order to take advantage of the perfect investment? And the answer is yes. You got way ahead of me. Thank you so much. $7,000 is exactly right. So because $7,000 is 7% of 100,000. So what happens next? What does the company do if they have a 7% match and you were smart enough to contribute 7% of your income to the 401k plan? What is the company obligated to do if they have a 7% match? What happens in your account that now has $7,000 that you put in it? What happens next? They match it exactly with another $7,000, which means you have a total in your account of, I'm looking at the screen. Yes, it doubles to $14,000. Is that cool? Now, that's without even investing it, really. It's putting it into your account, which we're going to talk about in a minute as I get into the bucket strategies. You basically just put it into a bucket, a type of account. And that type of account is a 401k. I call it the perfect investment because it's the only investment I know of where somebody's going to match it and you're going to double your money, the perfect investment. But the truth is, just because it's in this bucket doesn't mean it's actually invested in anything. It's just in this bucket, which is why it's the perfect investment, because by putting it in that special bucket that the company matches, you just doubled your money. What else happens in terms of your financial situation? Another thing that makes this kind of a super cool investment, the perfect investment, is that in terms of your tax return, does anybody know what happens to your tax return? If you make $100,000 and you put $7,000 into your 401k, what does the IRS look at and say, okay, instead of making $100,000, how much did you make? That's a question. Lower tax bracket. Yeah, you only made $93,000 according to the IRS because you deducted the $7,000, which means you pay less taxes, which is another reason this is the perfect investment in my opinion. So yeah, you pay less taxes. So you get the match, you pay less taxes, and that's what's so cool about it. So what else is cool about the perfect investment? One thing you need to know is if you leave that job within 3 years, you say you don't love working for Shell and you get an offer to go work for Google, well, chances are you're going to lose that match if you don't stay there for 3 years. So just be aware of that. And if you do stay for 5 years and then you go to Google, you're going to want to roll that over into a different type of account. Instead of leaving it in that 401k, you're going to want to roll it over into an IRA. And you should have done some homework assignments this week to distinguish what is an IRA, what is a Roth IRA, what are the limits you can contribute. So hopefully that built a little bit of a foundation for where we're going to go now. So I want to introduce you to the there's 1, 2, 3, 4 buckets here. And this is a shovel. And this little shovel, I'm not going to spend a lot of time today talking about the shovel, but to me, one of the most valuable assets you could have, one of the most valuable assets I have, without a doubt, and I think it's true for everyone, is your ability to work. And your ability to work and do service and add value somewhere in the market. I say the market, in the world. So when I was young, I think I told you this story about when I was young, I really wanted some new tennis shoes. I wanted leather Converse tennis shoes. And gosh, it's so much fun to tell this story in class, because in class, I look around and I find somebody who's wearing black Converse canvas tennis shoes. You know what they look like, right? They're kind of cool these days. They're not that cheap these days, but when I was a kid, they cost $4 at Kmart. Kmart, I don't even think is in business anymore. $4. Well, there were 5 kids in our family. So, and my mom didn't work. My dad did work. So we're one income family. We were on a very tight budget, and $4 was it. So when we got new tennis shoes, we had a choice. We could get white or black, and we could get low top or high top, but they were basically $4 a pair. Well, at that time, Dr. J came out, Julius Erving, NBA star, Dr. Dunk, and he endorsed Converse tennis shoes. I told the story last week about Magic Johnson taking the deal with Converse as well, and instead of taking the stock options with Nike, he regretted that. Great story. Anyway, if he would have taken the stock options with Nike, he would have been a billionaire without a doubt, Magic Johnson. But anyway, back to the tennis shoes. Dr. J endorsed these really cool high-top leather Converse tennis shoes, but they cost at Kmart $10. So I wanted a pair. I went to my mom. She said, "No, ask your dad." I went to my dad, and he said, "Son, we can't afford to buy everybody everything they want. But you," he said, "you have a choice. You have some options. You have some great opportunities because we live in America." And he handed me a shovel. It happened to be the dead of winter, and he pointed around to all the neighbors who needed their driveways shoveled. And he said, "Here, I'm going to give you a gift." And he gave me a snow shovel. And I came back that day. It was a Saturday. I came back late when it was dark, and I had a pocket full of money. And then the next, springtime came, and he gave me a rake and eventually a lawnmower. And he basically just taught me that if I will go out and find what needs to be done, somebody will be happy to pay me to do it. And so that's what this shovel represents, is the work that you do to build wealth is probably the most important asset you'll ever own. But as you do work, you're going to accumulate stuff. And that's what this bucket represents. This is just a big plastic, stupid beach bucket. And I just want you to know this represents anything you can put in it. Your iPhone, your Bose earphones, your Yeti mug, your bucket, the tools you use at work. Everything you own can go into that bucket. It's just a bucket that represents everything that is yours. But it doesn't have much protection. In fact, it doesn't have any real protection. You can notice, if you look closely, you'll see this bucket is actually cracked. It would leak. It wouldn't hold water. So from a tax perspective, from an asset protection perspective, this bucket isn't much good, but it contains as much as you want to put in there, from your checking account to your savings account to your brokerage account to your John Deere tractor, your Winnebago, your cool toys, your car, pretty much anything, your personal property, cash under your mattress. That's what that bucket represents. And it's just a bucket, but it compares to this bucket very differently. This bucket happens to represent a 401k. And when I say 401k, I'm not just talking about a company 401k, because maybe you work for the government. Maybe you work for the University of Houston. Instead of a 401k, if you worked for the University of Houston, this bucket would be a 403b. And those numbers, all they really are different sections of the IRS code. And remember, this lesson is about tax-advantaged investing. The IRS makes the law, the rules, and when they write them down, they put them in code. So 401k is a paragraph number, 403b is a paragraph number, 457, the government plan. They all basically work the same way. And that is like that perfect investment. When you put money into this bucket, you get a tax deduction. and you get a lot of other protections that come with being a tax qualified account. So this bucket represents a type of account that you can put a lot of money in, but it is limited. Unlike this bucket, you can put as much in this bucket. This bucket could be 1,000,000 times bigger than it is. You can never fill it up. It can constantly get bigger and bigger. There's no rules, boundaries, or limitations on what you can put in this bucket, but there's really no protection either. You can get sued. It can, burn up, blah, blah, blah. But in this bucket, you have lots of protections, but you do have rules, boundaries, and limitations. But the biggest benefit to this bucket is what? The perfect investment. So this is a bucket most people want to fill up, or at least you want to contribute to this bucket to the extent that you're taking advantage of the perfect investment. Does that make sense? That's what this bucket represents. This is the 401k bucket. So the next bucket we have is the bucket that I call the IRA bucket. We'll get to this bucket in a minute. Hopefully, some of you right now can already tell me the difference between these two buckets. One is the tax-deductible traditional IRA. IRA stands for, it should stand for Individual Retirement Account, but it actually stands for Individual Retirement Arrangement. It's got very similar rules to this bucket. But when you leave an employer, you generally don't want to leave the money that you invested in this type of account in the company 401k. You generally want to roll it over into your own individual retirement account or arrangement. And that's what this bucket is. And you notice it's smaller because you can put a lot of money. You guys did the math, you did the research, and you told me in an earlier assignment, what are the contribution limits? How much can you invest in a 401k? How much can you invest in a traditional IRA? So it's a smaller bucket, but it has the same benefit. It's tax deductible. It's tax deferred. Oh, I forgot to tell you that you don't pay tax on the growth in this bucket. That's one of the benefits. There were 3 of them. One is you get the match. Number 2, you get the deduction. Number 3, it's tax deferred, which means if I invest in whatever asset classes I choose for my 401k, and over time they grow, I don't pay tax on it until I take it out when I'm older. But it's tax deferred. That's true about your IRA as well. Tax deferred. You get a tax deduction and you get tax deferred growth. That's why tax advantaged investing is much better than investing in this bucket. So I'm going to now take it to the next level, and we now have the third bucket. See, there are different sizes. I think the Roth IRA probably should be the same size as this because, as you know, you could contribute to your Roth IRA account the same amount you could contribute to your tax deductible traditional IRA. So maybe it should be the same size, but this is gold. This is not gold in my opinion. This is gold because, for one thing, I needed buckets that would fit into each other. But this gold bucket represents the Roth IRA. It's the only tax-free investment, type of investment account that I know of. It's the only one there is the Roth IRA. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the Roth IRA. I'm going to tell you a story about a client. His name is JD. JD became a millionaire, and he's like the perfect millionaire next door. I don't know I think I told you one of my favorite books, there's a couple, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Great book. I read that in college. It really moved the needle for me. But there was another book called The Millionaire Next Door, and it was about these people that lived next door that were millionaires that didn't really look like millionaires. So they were just regular people who did irregular things. They did simple little things that helped them accumulate wealth. The millionaires next door. But you wouldn't know it. I mean, they drove older cars, they lived in smaller houses. So JD was a friend of mine, a client, and he was also a little league coach, and he was the perfect millionaire next door. Let me take a drink of water. So, excuse me, JD, we coached little league together. That's how I got to know him. Came to me for car insurance or home insurance or something when I was a State Farm agent. And then when I got my securities license and I also became a certified financial planner. So I was doing fee-based financial planning. He came to my office and said he wanted to get a second opinion, and he trusted me. So he sat down and we opened up his statements, and I started looking, and come to find out he was a millionaire. I was like, dude, how'd you do that? You lived in the same neighborhood I did. You drive a minivan just like we do. I wasn't a millionaire at that point. In fact, JD was absolutely the guy who convinced me that his plan worked. In fact, this whole lesson is based on JD's plan. It's so simple, it's scary. So I'm like, how did you do that? And he tells me, he says, well, Jim, here's the deal. Like, I just decided right out of college that I was going to take advantage of every tax benefit I could. And he said, plus my company did this match. He was a company guy, worked at NASA. And so he worked at a contractor for NASA. He didn't actually work for NASA. But anyway, he said, I basically, made up my mind I was going to invest as much as I could in my 401k. And whenever I got a raise, he said, instead of buying a bigger house or whatever, I would save the money. And, the IRS, he said, over time, they increased the limits of how much you could contribute to these tax advantaged accounts. So he said, when I'd get a raise, instead of buying a new car or, upgrading my house or whatever, I would just put more money in my 401k. So I didn't really think about it. I just made up my mind and committed to do that. And then he said in 1998, the IRS came up with this really cool thing called a Roth IRA. And he said, my wife never worked. She's always stayed home with the kids and taking care of things at home. But he said she was able to contribute as a spouse to a Roth IRA for her. So we did that too. We started doing that in 98, and we've done it every year. And I'm looking at his statements. I'm going, that's just remarkable, because now he's a millionaire, and he was barely 50 years old, a little older than I was. But it was remarkable to me that such a simple plan produced such remarkable results. And he reminded me again of the Millionaire Next Door, because in that book, one of the cool things that I liked when I was in college is these millionaire next door people, one of the things they were really good at was buying used cars. And they liked getting a good deal on a car, but they really, really appreciated the fact that when you buy something like a car and you pay full retail and you drive it off the lot, it depreciates 20% immediately. Like, you can buy a new car, say you spend 35 grand on your new car, take it home, change your mind, take it back to the dealer and trade it in, and you're going to get $27,000 just for driving it home. Whatever, it's a crazy number. But the Millionaire Next Door is smarter than that. They know that a car is a mode of transportation. That's what it's for. Same with a house. And so they just made their lifestyle such that they valued investing for the future, and that meant they would be happy to sacrifice something like the new car smell for an additional X amount of growth in their net worth. So JD was that guy. And it's like the lights went on for me, and I started doing exactly what he was doing. And over time, it paid off pretty well. So he took advantage of these buckets. But here I want to tell you a story now as we wrap up. This is why, I love that book too, Yolani. I should read it again. I will read it again. So here's inside of this gold bucket is a gold bag. I'm going to just call this Apple stock, because this story illustrates why it's so important to allocate your investments into the right tax strategy. So when I say tax strategy, I mean putting as much as you can into a Roth IRA is a strategy. Investing in a tax-free type of account. But what you invest, always understand, coming into this course, you may not have realized that a Roth IRA is not an investment. A 401k is not an investment. It's a type of account. And so you have to choose, what are you going to actually invest? So I'm going to tell you a story about Andrea Smart. She did basically the same plan that JD did. She was a client and she did very well for herself, and she had invested in her Roth IRA. And she decided back in 2009, now this is actually an illustration, so I'm gonna make some stuff up. But what I'm not going to make up is the reality of what would happen if you did what I'm going to tell you in this story. So Andrea, in 2009, Apple stock was trading at $100 a share. It was actually trading at $105 a share, but let's just keep the math simple. Apple stock trading at $100 a share, and she had in her Roth IRA in 2009, she had $100,000. So she decided to buy Apple stock. Now, does anybody know how many shares of Apple stock you could buy if it's $100 a share and you invest $100,000? Please, that's not a trick question. $100,000, $100 a share. How many shares? Thank you. 1,000 shares. So that's right. Andrea bought 1,000 shares of Apple stock. In 2009, it was trading for $100 a share. So does anybody know what Apple stock is trading for today? I'm going to just check real quick. Just see. Let's see. Apple stock. So this is a chart of Apple stock today. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see it's trading at $438 a share. And you can see I got JD 2020, JD, the story. It's a watch list. But so 470-ish, that's a little high, Bri. But 438, 439.02 as we speak. So Apple stock is trading at let's say $430 a share. Or let's just say $400 a share to keep the math super simple. Because by the end of the day, by the end of the week, by the end of the month, who knows? It could be trading at $400 a share. Does anybody know what Andrea's investment back in 2009, when she invested $100,000 into Apple stock, with the stock trading at $100 a share when she bought it, and if she decided today to sell it, how much cash would she have in her 401, in her Roth IRA? Somebody, 300. Where do you get 300,000? Yeah, Brian says 400,000. So based on that math, that would be correct. That sounds like the right math, because I didn't tell you the whole story. I'm about to tell you the rest of the story, unless one of you wants to tell me what the rest of the story is, because there's more to the story. In fact, Apple announced just last week when their earnings came out that they're going to split the stock. So if you own one share of Apple stock, it's worth $400, but in a couple weeks, they're going to split it so that you will actually own 4 shares of Apple stock, each worth, in our assumption here, $100 a share, so that you'll still have $400 of Apple stock, but you'll have 4 shares. That's called a stock split. So my question is, do you think they did anything weird like that over, since 2009 that would have affected Andrea's situation? Because today, Apple stock in our scenario is trading for $400 a share, and Andrea bought 1,000 shares, and you're telling me that that would be worth $400,000. And that's not right. That's wrong. It's a totally different number. And I really want you to get it, because I just want you to know that in your Roth IRA, you could buy Apple stock. Andrea, in this story, she bought 100% Apple stock. I would never do that. That's not good diversification. But for the story here, I want you to know that in a Roth IRA, if she would have bought 1,000 shares at 100, and if it did turn out that it was worth 400,000, it's not worth 400,000. Yeah, Zahn, they did that. So yeah, it is worth more, but that doesn't really answer the question, how much more? But I'll tell you in a minute if you don't know. If nobody knows, I'll tell you. But let's just say that Andrea decided today she's going to sell her $400,000 of Apple stock in her Roth IRA. Will she pay tax? Because remember, if she did that in this bucket, she's going to pay tax. If it was in her IRA account and she sold the same thing, she bought the Apple stock in a tax deferred account, she wouldn't pay tax when she sells it as long as it's in this account. You can't really do that in a 401k. They don't let you buy individual stock. Most companies don't. But in the IRA or the Roth IRA, both of them, if she sold it, she would not pay tax because it's in a tax deferred bucket or a tax free bucket. So Roth IRA is tax free. So yeah, the cool thing is if she did it in the Roth IRA, then if she got to be, I'm not 59 and a half, but in a year or so, I'll be 59 and a half, and I could take money out of my Roth IRA. And if I did that, if I'm Andrea and I had this big, huge gain, I pay no tax because it's tax free. That's awesome. But here's what's really amazing is Apple stock that was trading for $100 back in 2009. They did the same kind of split they're fixing to do with four. They're going to split it for a four-way split. But a few years ago, they split it 7. Think about that. What do we know? Andrea invested $100,000. Apple stock was trading at $100 a share. It split 7 ways. So how many shares does she have today? Somebody. 7 stock split. I'm looking for a magic number. Yep. Brian. 7,000 shares. And how much is Apple stock worth today per share? We're pretending it's not 426 or 439. We're pretending it's 400 for simple math. Today, Apple stock is trading at $400 a share, and Andrea has 7,000 shares. What's that number? Somebody do the math. We said $400. Yep, that's right, Brian. We're pretending that it's not actually 439. We're pretending that it's 400. So somebody do some math for me. $400 a share and 7,000 shares. Is that right, Camille? Seriously? How much? What? Wait a minute. You're telling me $100,000 investment in Apple stock in 2009 could turn out to be 2.8 million? You could get like rich if you pick the right stock. I'm not suggesting you put all your money in any one stock, but gosh, Apple, Amazon, there are some stocks that have done amazingly well. And what's going to happen for Andrea when she sells that Apple stock? Maybe she doesn't ever sell it. Maybe Apple stock goes way up. It keeps going up. But the whole point is, in your financial plan, the idea of asset allocation, the most important determinant of your portfolio's returns. In other words, are you going to allocate your assets to some tech stock, like growth stocks? I think you should, over time, especially when you understand dollar cost averaging, you should do that. But the real point here today in this final lesson, as you prepare to put the finishing touches on your capstone assignment on your financial plan, pretending you have $1 million to allocate, in terms of allocating the asset classes and the tax allocation, my question to you is, which of these buckets would be more valuable to you? This bucket this is the bucket, by the way, that 98% of you put your $1 million in. This plastic, your checking account, brokerage account, maybe you invested it in a piece of real estate, but you put your $1 million in a non-tax qualified bucket. Some of you, one or two maybe, put it in a 401k a little bit. And some of you smart enough to know that you could have done an IRA, and I don't think any of you, maybe I missed it, put it in a Roth IRA. But this week, your assignment is to go back to the drawing board and take a gander to see what happens in your plan, in your retirement probability of success, when you start to fiddle around with your tax allocation. And I'm very curious to grade those capstone assignments, because I'm assuming that some of you are going to recognize the value of a tax-free type of account, especially when you invest in this type of account with asset classes that have the potential for significant growth instead of just cash, which I know seems really safe, but trust me, cash will not outpace inflation, which basically means 10 years from now, if they're still selling this phone, it's not going to be $1,000 like it is today. It's going to be $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever. Everything you buy, from gasoline to jasmine rice, is going to cost more in the future, which means your cash is going to be worth less, which is one reason why you invest in asset classes that have the potential for growth to outpace inflation. So that's just one of the pieces of the puzzle in your retirement plan. The main thing is that probability of success. I want you to go back to the drawing board, and I want you to play around with your asset allocation. I want you to play around with your tax allocation, and then come back with your final capstone assignment and tell me what you learned in the semester, in this final phase of your capstone assignment. And I hope that helps, but if it didn't, then I would encourage you to stick with it and understand how these different pieces of your financial plan really move the needle for you in terms of a retirement outcome 25 years from now. The options that you will have in your life, because you took a little time now to understand these small little steps, or what I call little disciplines that you practice in your daily life that relate to your spending and your saving, your investing, and your tax planning, just by putting it in the right type of account, like JD did, like Andrea did, like I did. You can do that. That's the way to become a millionaire by the time you're 50, and I promise you it's not that difficult. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all your support in this interesting summer series with COVID online and summer school. Some new things for me, new things for you. I hope you learned a ton, and I hope to see you soon. And I'm going to ask you to do an evaluation, your Bauer evaluation, and your or my rateyourprofessors.com. Those are the two things I'm going to ask you to do. One is for the college, the Bauer College, and for really the whole institution. But the other is for the students who, you know, just like when you go buy something at Amazon, I'm assuming you read the reviews. The most valuable thing at Amazon is the reviews. What do other people say about this product? And so I want you to tell the truth. I don't want you to just, you know, if there's some things I can do better, when you do those evaluations, I promise you, I will read them, I'll pay attention, and I'll make changes based on your input. So thanks again. I wish we could have a pizza party, but we're not going to be able to do that. So until I see you again or connect with you online, don't forget you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my favorite social media. Stay tuned on the YouTube channel. We'll be continuing to update resources for students who are in the course, but also for students who want a little refresher and want to stay in the game of personal finance. So I hope you'll stay connected. There's lots of ways to do that. So thanks again, and good luck on your capstone assignment. I'll see you in Blackboard. Take care. I'll wait. Okay, I'll wait. Okay, Randy, you want me to look at your question? Let me see. First, so if the Roth IRA limit is $6,000 per year, how could she invest $100,000 in 2009? Great question. So let's say that she invested $6,000 a year from 1998 until 2009. How much would she have in that account? That's the question. And what if she invested it in certain stocks and asset classes that really grew? That's how she would have $100,000 in that account. So in 2009, Andrea had $100,000 in her Roth IRA. Doesn't mean she contributed $100,000 in 2009. It means she had accumulated $100,000. So that's that question. Can you tell us if you're going to teach another course at UH? Yes, I am, next semester. Getting ready for it now when I get back from vacation. Okay, Randy, I'm scrolling down to your question, looking for it. Okay, so for my goals portion in the financial plan, it affects cash flow, like, for example, saving up for a dream house and a dream car. But we also added a home and car loan to our debt portion. So they kind of interfere with each other, because on the cash flow, it's like I bought a home twice and a car twice. Yeah, so that's a great question. You don't know how to fix the cash flow portion. So this tells me something, Randy. It tells me that you watched the video that I did where I said, look at the cash flow and see if there's anything you see that is out of sync that I'm going to question. And that is one thing I would question. So I'm not going to give you the answer. I want you to go just do your best to try to figure that out. And if you don't figure it out, that's okay. You won't get deducted for not being able to figure it out. It will give me something to come back and say, okay, here's something I saw, and I'll give you the answer later. You'll have to stay tuned. But I'm not going to give you the answer now because I want you to go and check it out. There is a reason for that. But don't spend too much time. Just go and make sure you address it in your capstone. Say, here's what I see. I don't know why, but if you do a little research, you'll probably be able to figure it out. Just don't spend too much time, but I'm not going to give you the answer. Sorry, I was still in the middle of the time. Okay. So if you, by the way, Randy or anyone else, if you have something that you really want to unpack at the end of the semester, you can always come back and schedule a one-on-one with me, and we'll take a look at your plan. But since this is all hypothetical at this point, Randy, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just the goal here is for you to learn and to be able to look at your plan and unpack it. So I will give you the answer after the course, after you finish. Okay, I'm looking at some more. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, no, Randy, it won't get deducted. There's going to be a lot of things, by the way, in your plan or your capstone that will be incorrect, and that's okay. The purpose is not to get a perfect plan. The purpose is to learn as much as you can and to really see how the needle gets moved when you start to tweak things like investment asset allocation and tax allocation and those debt strategies. I mean, those are the main things. So, yep, you did. And your work so far, Randy's looked good. So thanks for your question and good luck figuring it out. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. I'm going on vacation, though, Thursday. So like I said, if you have questions, please buzz me today and tomorrow. I'll still be checking my messages as I travel. But all right, I'm looking. Glad you got the book. So late assignments, anything that was submitted after it was graded is not going to be included. Okay. Ilani, what do you mean you got the book but not the paper? You didn't get the blueprint? That's my wife's fault. You didn't get the blueprint with the book. If you didn't, let me send you a digital copy so my wife doesn't have to put this in the mail, and I'll owe you one. Not the paper. Yeah, that is. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, this is the blueprint. You guys didn't get the blueprint, did you? My wife didn't put it in. So let me send you the digital copy. Is that okay? Because this is really more for reference. It is the original blueprint, and I do have a bunch of copies, and I'll be happy to give you one, but I don't want to have my wife put them in the mail. So, okay, I'll get you guys the blueprint, but it'll be digital, if that's okay. Hopefully you enjoyed the book. My wife said I should have signed it, but I didn't know if that was appropriate. Maybe next time. I'll sign it if you ever want to bring it by the office. Y'all take care. We're way over time, so I'm going to shut this down now. And I'll see you in GroupMe. Take care.